We back. Good morning. Welcome to another Steelers Saturday Sit Down with Around the 412. I'm Smitty. That is Tyler of Around the 412. Tyler, it's been a couple weeks. One, because I was sick, and then two, they played on Thursday night, so there was nothing really to discuss on a Saturday, but there is absolutely one to discuss tomorrow night. Steelers, Packers. I don't know. I think this is probably the game that I'm looking forward to the most. Like, there's going to be more important games down the stretch, obviously, for, as this team fights for a playoff spot. But the Packers and Steelers, I just feel like there's so many parallels about the organizations. And Aaron Rodgers facing his old team on a Sunday night, wearing the throwback uniforms. Not only is it the game I'm looking forward to the most this season, since I got my tickets, I don't know if there's been a game I've been looking forward to being at more than this one.
Yeah, looking at the schedule this year, this is definitely one of the more premier games to get to. And then obviously you've got those divisional games that are always so important. You got the Ravens games, but I feel like as someone that's actually not going to any Steeler game this year, unfortunately, like if I had to pick one to be at just based off of the opponent, the storylines, the Packers game would probably be it. You get the allure of Sunday Night Football, which I know everybody, there's always like a talking point of like you hear the jingle for Sunday Night Football and it just turns your stomach and makes you nervous in some sort of fashion. And I feel like that even more so being in the stadium for you tomorrow night is going to be that way. This is a great opponent to go against, teams that are fairly similar in a lot of different ways, but also you've got the revenge aspect of Aaron Rodgers, and I don't care what anybody says. Like, this is going to be a revenge game. It's also like when he said this is not a revenge game against the Jets in week one, but then you saw how he celebrated winning that game in week one as well. There's no way that he is not going into this one. Not necessarily as like bitter, I would say, as far as the going against the Jets go, but
right, yeah.
He definitely wants to beat his former team. He does not want to go on the losing side of that column. So I think that this is definitely one of the most anticipated games on the schedule, period. As far as home games go, I feel like it might be number one, and just adding the whole aspect of Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback now, getting this game nationally televised on Sunday Night Football. I feel like this is such a big moment for the Steelers, and a big moment that they need to really capitalize on after a stinker on Thursday Night Football last week. I mean, I think that left a bad taste in the mouth of the team, the fan base, something that everybody wants to move past. And what a matchup and what a team to have the opportunity to go against than the one we have tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think very similarly to, the way that they lost that playoff game last year, giving up like 300 yards rushing to the Ravens, and very clearly just left a bad taste in the team's mouth all offseason, maybe still up to this point it has. I think similarly, this game last Thursday night did the same thing. Like, I think that they're just going to stick with this one for a while. And I think it has to. Like, they kind of have to just wear that one and figure out a way to not let that happen again. Like, it's weird because you got to move on to the next game, but you got to keep that one with you, I think, at the same time. A couple things to get into before we do start to really preview and predict this. Told him I'd give him a shout out on the show. Hopefully he's watching right now. He said he would be either live or watching back. Happy birthday, Pat. 27 years old today. TE1. National Tight Ends Day tomorrow night. Let's have a night. And then the other thing, I had a couple people that doesn't relate to the game. Had a couple people tag me in an article from SitDAHN about the Steelers and looking for a receiver. And there was something put in there about Jacoby Myers and how there's like a legit offer there. And there's like people in the league that believe that that's one that could end up getting done. I had a couple people asking me if I've heard similar. I have not. Like, not to say that Tony Pauline is wrong. He's obviously been in the game for a long time, doing it for a while. Was with Pro Football Network for a while, I believe. So I'm not discrediting him. Just personally can't necessarily speak to that. I spoke on the interest that they had in him for sure. The one thing that was thrown in there that up to that point I hadn't heard, but it was like trying to figure out if they're, if the people I talked to knew anything about it, was Calvin Ridley. That's one I think Tennessee would love to get out off of that contract, get off their books. I mean, the guaranteed money is going to run up, so like they could move on anyways, but they might as well try to get something for him in return. I don't know that I'm super interested in that one, which makes me think that it is one that is certainly possible, because I don't think that there is going to be like a high draft pick attached to that. Like, let's just be real. I just, because of this team, we know that they want a quarterback in the 2026 draft. and they're probably going to have to give up draft capital other than just their own first round pick this year to get up there to make that selection. They're going to hoard draft picks, and that's what they have to do. I completely understand it. At the same time, it makes me believe that they're not going to win a bidding war for any player because they don't want to part with the draft picks that it's going to take to do so. So that's why I think somebody like an Alan Lazard, in this case, Calvin Ridley, Brandon Cooks, potentially, those are the names I think are more possible than Chris Olave. I don't think Jalen Waddle's going anywhere. I know his name was thrown out there as well. But like with Jacoby Myers, if there's multiple teams interested, I know the Patriots are in. I actually heard the Buccaneers are in with everything that's going on with their wide receiver room. Atlanta was thrown my way yesterday for a team that's in on Jacoby Myers. The Bills, he's got a market. And because of that, I just have a hard time thinking the Steelers are going to be the ones that ultimately land him.
Yeah, I think based off of where the Steelers want to be come next April, you're not going to see them get into any bidding wars with other teams as far as giving up draft capital goes, at least high draft capital, because like you said, like when you're trading up for a quarterback, especially teams play the game. They know if you're trading up for a quarterback, they're going to charge more of a premium on picks that you're going to want coming the other way. So unless you're getting somebody for a later round, like 5th round type of guy, not really having to give much up of anything, maybe if it's just even a rental of a player as well, just you get the 1 year and that's it. I feel like that's probably best case scenario for what the Steelers are going to be looking for. As much as I would like a player like Jacoby Myers, like you said, there's too much of a market for him for me to see the Steelers really being the ones to set that actual trade market for him and being the highest bidder. I just don't imagine it's going to happen. I feel like we would have seen it similar to last year. Like we didn't really make a huge splash in the wide receiver market. Got somebody that was just going to be coming on a 1 year deal that you play out the rest of the year. 9 catches. And his best game was his first game with the Steelers. And then he didn't really catch a touchdown after that. So yeah, I feel like that is kind of similar blueprint of what you're going to see this year. If they make a move for a wide receiver, it's going to be someone that's on an expiring deal. You're not going to have to give up a lot of draft capital because they're going to vitalize and utilize that so much come next April that they're just not going to be the team to set the market.
I'm all in for Rashid Shaheed. Like, especially if Bill Barnwell is somewhat in the ballpark of that trade, because it was a 4th round pick going back to New Orleans, but you get Shaheed and a 5th. So you're not even losing out on the amount of draft capital. You're giving up a round, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the Steelers should be willing to do that. And Shaheed is an impending UFA. I get that. But like, I think he's somebody that you could potentially even extend as well. And I think that he kind of fits the bill of what they're looking for. So I'd be all on board for something like that. I'm still all on board for a Jacoby Myers, something like that. I just think that right now they're probably looking for a day 2 pick. And with as many teams are in the market, I think it's possible that they get that. It's just not happening from Pittsburgh. So that was the point of me bringing that up. That had nothing to do with the Steelers and Packers. Let's talk about the Steelers and Packers. It's National Tight Ends Day, as I mentioned, or will be on Sunday. Tyler, can you tell me what 3 teams in the NFL are the absolute worst in terms of giving up production to opposing tight ends?
I would probably say the Packers are one of them because I cheated a little bit because I looked up the stat. I don't know how they rank against everybody else, but I know that so far in the season they've given up 375 yards to tight ends, 62.5 average on the season. I'd say the Bengals, based off of last week, are probably in the top 3. And then after that, I'll just throw out the Cowboys because they're just terrible overall in pass defense.
You got 2 of the 3.
Okay.
The third one is the other team playing in this game, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So Cincinnati is the worst. Green Bay and Pittsburgh are 2 and 3 in terms of giving up production to opposing tight ends. The Steelers might be a little bit skewed by that one performance from Hunter Henry against the Patriots. I'm not sure.
Is that what it is? Because you said that, and I was thinking in my head, like, what tight ends really burned us? I didn't really think that it was like really big games, but yeah, he had a ton of yards for a tight end.
Yeah, like you can't do this. I'm just saying this as a reference. I wonder if you take that game out and just put in like what they've given up as an average in every other game and just inserted that as the production in that game, where it would rank. I think that one probably skewed it quite a bit. But anyways, point of saying that is I think that we could see both offenses kind of funnel through that Packers are really bad in terms of defending the intermediate part of the field. That's where their defense has been very attackable. And again, the Steelers as a whole, their secondary has not been very good up to this point. From the Packers standpoint, let's start Packers offense for Steelers defense, because I think that's the point of emphasis to watch. We're looking for a rebound from that unit this week. Tough week to get that rebound. You look at what Joe Flacco did in under 2.5 seconds, 100th percentile in terms of what he was able to do attacking the Steelers defense in under 2.5 seconds. And Jordan Love, pretty much across the board, somewhere ranks between 1 through 3, whether you're talking about completion percentage, EPA per play, completion percentage over expected, every metric that you want to look at, he ranks somewhere between 1 and 3 in terms of his production when he gets the ball out in 2.5 seconds or less. So not a great week to think that it's going to be some massive turnaround with the quick game. So Steelers got to be on their P's and Q's. I think that as frustrating as it is, what I will say, for years, right, Steelers fans complained about watching this team play bend, don't break defense and ultimately give up field goals instead of giving up 7. I think we would kill to see that right now. Like, I think they kind of just got to go back to their cookie cutter country cover 3 and hold the Packers to field goals in this one, let them have everything they want underneath. Because otherwise, Packers, most explosive plays in the league. They're the most explosive offense. Honestly, they have seemed to be somewhere between 1 through 5 since Jordan Love got into the fold. But that's going to be the point of emphasis this week. I think you got to keep everything in front of you. Don't let them get behind you. Keep the explosives to a minimum. Make them settle for 3 instead of 7. And then the offense is obviously going to have to put up some points, stay on the field, I think get the run game going so you give the Packers the ball as little as possible in this one. And I think that's the path forward. Packers obviously got Josh Jacobs back in the mix, but big question as to what that receiver room is going to look like with all the guys either questionable or out. That's why I mentioned Tucker Kraft, I think could be the guy they funnel the passing game through.
Yeah, and it makes a ton of sense, too, because he's a really good player. You have a lot of wide receiver 2 and 3 type players on the Packers. You don't really have that elite wide receiver 1, but they distribute the ball well. Jordan Love gets out quick to a lot of these guys. They could potentially have Christian Watson back in this one as well. He hasn't played all season long, recovering from the ACL injury last season. I mean, if I'm the Packers, I'm really just watching this blueprint of what you saw in Cincinnati and seeing how the Steelers are susceptible if you don't let them get to Jordan Love, don't let them get to the quarterback by getting the ball out quick and attacking. I'll be curious to see how the Steelers approach this, because we talked about that earlier this week where they were putting them on an island against Jamar Chase, against T. Higgins, running a lot of man scheme, and they were getting burned for it. Are they going to take the different approach this week, playing more of that cover 3?
Well, if you take the coach's words for it, it's going to depend on what Josh Jacobs does early in this game. For whatever reason, it seemed like Chase Brown having 2 10-yard runs completely changed the way that they wanted to play deep. I mean, I don't understand that. In terms of
I
that
don't
being
understand
the answer,
how the run game is it changes what they want to do in the passing downs, but maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand why that affects it so much. But if I'm the Packers offense, I'm looking at that blueprint and trying to see how I'm able to replicate that. But I think that if you see what the Packers are looking with weapon-wise, it makes sense why they would go to Tucker Kraft. I mean, he's been very good as a fantasy owner. I appreciate him so much, but I really think
Isn't it funny? He was the second tight end that they took in that year too. They took Luke Musgrave.
Luke Musgrave,
yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how those things work out. But the game honestly makes me a little bit nervous just because of the defensive side of the football. I'm very curious to see what type of response we're going to get from the Steelers in this bounce back, because you have a very, very good running back with Josh Jacobs. We'll see what he is able to do, but the Steelers run defense, and we've talked about it all season long, outside of a handful of games, they have been pretty poor and very disappointing. And I think that has made them pretty easy to attack if they are not able to stop the run, because then they don't have their bread and butter, because I feel like that has been their bread and butter for so long, is like forcing teams to beat you through the air because you know that they're not going to be able to run the football. That just hasn't been the case this season. And Jordan Love, like you mentioned, ranked 1 through 3 in every single one of those stats that like getting the ball out quick, which has been the catalyst for the Steelers defense this past week. We'll see how it goes, but I just don't have a ton of confidence right now looking at it a day away from the game based off of what we saw a week ago. I don't think that they have the talent of a Jamar Chase or a T. Higgins to be able to beat you just based off of that skill, but they've got some decent players. We'll see which of them actually play. But I think that they're going to attack with Tucker Kraft. They're going to continue to try to run the football. And Jordan Love's going to be hard to bring down. He's also a decent athlete himself. So even if you get to him, it's not going to be necessarily easy to bring him down either. It's going to be a tough challenge for the Steelers defense.
Yeah. You look at those receivers that I brought up. So no Dontavian Wicks. We know that one for sure. He is out. But Matthew Golden popped up late in the week on Friday after being full participant Wednesday, Thursday. All of a sudden, the Friday limitation because of a hip. We'll see if he's able to go in this one. I mean, that would be big. You talked about the field stretcher of that group. Matthew Golden, a really good player. Romeo Doubs is good to go. Christian Watson's the interesting one coming back in this game, it sounds like. But LaFleur kind of already hinted at him being on a pitch count if he is going to be out there. Now, could the availability of Matthew Golden impact that? Potentially. But, you're coming back from a pretty significant injury. You're kind of always going to be on a pitch count, I would think, anyways, in that first game back. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But Josh Jacobs, no injury designation coming into this one. He's good to go. And I just such a good player. I trust their ability to run the ball more than I would of the Bengals. And the Bengals certainly got theirs off in the run game. So, that's got to be – I understand why it's such a point of emphasis for the Steelers. I really do. But it just kind of was weird to me that they were absolving blame publicly from the secondary play. I know Darius Slay said on podcast with Richard Sherman that Tomlin laid into them in a meeting. Whatever, I get it. But, Tomlin called out pretty much every aspect of this thing publicly other than the play of the secondary. And I just don't understand why that was the case. Unless, and Alan mentioned this, wouldn't have thought about it. They know that they can't fix it. And they don't want to draw more attention to that being the case. So it's hey, yeah, run the ball against us. We can't stop the run. But the secondary's fine. We're not going to mention them at all.
They're definitely not old at all. So don't attack them. Yeah.
I didn't think about that whatsoever, but that's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah. What do you think of how do you think the Steelers defense is going to attack this offense? Because I feel like they can't run man like they did a week ago, but they're also,
that's why
I don't think
they're going to play. I think they're going to play country cover 3 and keep everything in front of them and let Green Bay kind of dink and dunk their way down the fields and just take the yardage that's in front of them. It's probably going to be very frustrating to watch. I think they'll try to clamp down in the red zone and just hold Green Bay to 3, but I think they're going to be fine giving up 300 plus passing yards in this one to Jordan Love, as long as it doesn't lead to them getting the end zone 4+ times. So I think it's going to look very similar to Steelers defenses in the past where we were so frustrated by it, where it's bend, don't break. And I don't know that they have right now what looks like better personnel to be able to do anything differently. That might be their best approach.
I agree with you. The game that comes to mind so far this season that I would see similarities to are, now obviously there was a little more flash in this game and it was a OT thriller that ended up in a tie, is that Cowboys game with the Packers. There was not a ton of stretching the field by either one of the teams. A lot of them were just dinking and dunking down the field. And that's why you had these sustained passing numbers that you got from both sides of the football. I could think similarly of how the Packers are going to want to attack the Steelers in that one. But I do think that the underneath stuff with Tucker Kraft, that's going to be burning the Steelers unless they can defend it better. The main thing to me is if that is true, where they just don't think that they can fix the secondary and you're going to sit in cover 3 for the majority of the game, stop the run. That's where the main priority, I think, should be, because if you're going to be able to do one thing well, the Steelers traditionally have been able to stop the run. Haven't seen that much this year. You saw it for a couple games, especially when Derek Harmon came back and healthy, but then it went away the last few games. And I don't necessarily think there's a great answer either for why that is the case. It just seems.
I mean, it's feast or famine. They've played 6 games. I think 3 games they've done a really nice job limiting the run, and 3 games they've been terrible. So it's been feast or famine for this one. Jets, Seahawks, and then this past one in Cincinnati, the run defense was terrible. In between that, New England, Minnesota, Cleveland, I thought they did a nice job. So. And
it's not even like we can just say, oh, they're just running to Nick Herbich's side while Alex Highsmith is out. It's literally everybody that has been bad in run defense. So we can't even just point to the one side of the defensive line and say that's the problem. I think that across the board, it's just been disappointing whenever they have been in that famine.
Well, I think like if you look at the graphs, still like if they're not having much success running the TJ Watt side.
Sure.
So I will say that, but they're just doing like pin and pull stuff, going the other direction. Yeah. I mean, other teams have clearly had the blueprint of how to attack them. So yeah, I really hope they have some type of answer for this one. They've had, I guess that's the advantage that they have over Green Bay. They have a little bit more rest. Green Bay is playing from Sunday to Sunday. We didn't play since the previous Thursday, so we got a little bit more rest than Green Bay does coming into this one. Let's flip the script, talk about the Steelers offense going against the Packers defense. Unlike last Thursday, not all doom and gloom on that side of the ball. We talked about this. If you were looking for a silver lining, pretty much the entire offense you could talk about thought played really well in this one. Aaron was able to turn back the clock. Jaylen Warren averaging nearly 8 yards per run. They probably could have just handed him the ball 60 times and won this football game. Like, obviously, they were able to do what they were able to do through the air, and that's great. But they also turned the football over a couple times. I'm not saying that's the reason that they lost, but if you just kept the ball on the ground. So, yeah, I feel good about this offense coming into this one. I already talked about the ways that I think you can't attack this Packers defense in the intermediate. They're one of the worst teams, which is why I think you look at guys like on the in-breaking stuff, DK Metcalf, I think, could have a big game. Green Bay doesn't have a corner that matches up great against him. And he was one of the guys that didn't really eat in that game against the Bengals. I wonder if it's a point of emphasis to kind of get him going. We're going to talk about it every week. I mean, it is a tight end-centric offense, but this opponent, as well as it being on National Tight Ends Day, once again, I think you look to that area, and I mentioned the in-breaking stuff and the intermediate. I actually think this kind of lends its game potentially to be a Jonnu Smith game. We'll get into that when we give our bold predictions. But yeah, I think the tight ends could be in for a big day. This is a Packers defense that's given up the second fewest rushing yards per game. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be super successful for the Steelers on Sunday night, but I think they're going to try. We'll probably see them do some of the jumbo stuff that they've been doing with Darnell and with Spencer Anderson coming onto the field as well as an eligible, and see if they're able to get something going there. But I actually think maybe we see an extension of the run game be more successful, the quick screen game, stuff like that. I do like their linebackers when they're just playing forward, Edger and Cooper, Quay Walker. They're not like great in coverage, but just like playing downhill. So I think that they typically defend the screen pretty well. I'm curious, though, if the Steelers are able to have some success against that. Yeah, I don't think the Steelers are going to have a ton of success just running forward. That's probably the one area where I am a little bit concerned about this Packers defense being able to stop us. But I think the Steelers can get theirs with the way their offense has been going lately and what this team allows in the intermediate.
Yeah, I don't see how the Steelers are going to have the same night on the ground that they did a week ago. The Packers have been one of the best teams in the NFL when it comes to the run defense. They've only given up 100 yards on the ground once this season, and it was in that Cowboys game. Besides that, under 100 yards each time. And so I think the Steelers are going to have their work cut out from them and on the ground, but I do think that there are areas they can attack through the air. I don't think the Packers defense is good enough to completely eliminate Aaron Rodgers in the pass game. I think you can attack them similarly over the middle of the field like you did, or like the Packers have a similar tendency to do against the Steelers potentially this week. I think that the interesting thing to me is that if you look at the snap counts for the Packers defense, they rotate their defensive line a lot to keep those guys fresh. So hopefully that means that, hopefully for them, that doesn't mean that they're going to keep them fresh and be able to get to Aaron Rodgers enough. They don't really typically
no Lucas Van Ness. So in terms of what they like to do with the 3 edge stuff, that's kind of out the window. We know we're going to see Parsons and Gary, but Van Ness has been a nice player for them as well as he continues to progress, especially once Parsons got there this year. But no Van Ness on Sunday night. I think that's relatively important because they like to, have Van Ness and Gary as the traditional edges at times and line up Parsons like in the A gap right over the center, use him as a third rusher somewhere else. And that's kind of out the window with no Van Ness.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be good for the Steelers. I just hope that the freshness of the Packers defensive line doesn't wear on the offensive line too much. They don't really switch out their linebackers a whole ton. Edric Cooper and Quay Walker pretty much play the entire game. The Packers play just as much cover 3 as the Steelers do. So that's why I think there's some of similarities to how both of these teams can attack the other side of the field. And so with the Steelers, I think it could be a big Jonnu Smith game. You could see some of those inside slants to DK Metcalf and see what they could do over the middle of the field there. Pat Frymuth is very well eligible to have another big game this weekend. I think that we've said that so many times this year, but like the tight ends could be feasting in this one. I think that the running backs out of the
now they've had back-to-back games against 2 of the 3 worst defenses in terms of allowing tight ends, on top of the fact that we know, like, beyond DK Metcalf, we've been searching for that wide receiver option, and it's a tight end centric offense under Arthur Smith, or at least we came into the season thinking that it would be, and I feel like we were really starting to see it the last couple of weeks. But I think that is the point of emphasis. I don't know if they're going to be able to take a bunch of deep shots in this one. I don't know. You got to find a way to create explosive from plays that don't start out as explosive, and what I mean is yards after the catch. I think are going to be very important for this one, creating, which we've seen DK Metcalf be very good at. Historically, Jonnu Smith is good at. Jonnu Smith's yards per reception this year, though, right now, 5.9. Like,
that's
his career's about 11. So you're talking about.
I was going to say that's probably like an all-time low for his career. It's got to be.
Yeah, absolutely it is. So right now, averaging 5.9 yards per. He's basically a receiving running back that he's being utilized as. But this defense could allow it to be a way to get back on track and get going in the right direction for him. Sorry to hear Joel said she has taken the children. I assume it's because you're watching another SitDAHN when you should be doing other things. I think it's like pumpkin patch time of year probably. So skipping out on that to watch us, and we appreciate it. Anything else to say about Steelers offense joining its Packers defense? I'm trying to think if there's anything.
Getting Packers Calvin Austin play man. Back in this one. Packers don't play man, so you're going to probably expect zone all night. Like I was looking.
They don't have the corners to do it. I mean, I'm not.
I was looking at their coverages, and I think it's like maybe it was like 18% of the time they're in cover 1, but cover 2 man and cover 0%. They have not done a single scheme at all this year that they have been in those coverages. So you're going to see pretty much zone the entire night, and so that's why I think Aaron Rodgers is similarly to how I felt about Joe Flacco last week going against the Steelers defense. Aaron Rodgers has the wits about him to be able to find the soft zones of that coverage and take advantage of that. And we talk about like dunking down the field, and I relate it to how you saw the Cowboys be able to do that pretty well and executing a lot of yards after the catch. I mean, George Pickens, I think he had a long of like 34 in that game, but a lot of that game, it was just the Packers taking the short to intermediate game and their receivers making plays with it after the catch. I think that the Steelers could execute that pretty well. The Steelers also have Aaron Rodgers to be able to get the ball out quick. I think that you can eliminate a guy like Micah Parsons that way. And
we saw the Steelers be able to effectively game plan around Myles Garrett. Yeah, and I think that
absolutely.
Unlike the Cardinals, I am hopeful of having a better plan to mitigate Micah Parsons. I mean, they were just leaving him on an island in the second half against Jonah Williams for whatever reason, and that ended up being their downfall. What, you have 3.5 sacks, I think, on Sunday. Parsons, 3.5 sacks. Unbelievable that the Cardinals allowed that to happen.
They lose all season. Maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe
I think
like
it's
4.
I think it's 4. But yeah, I look going back to the corners. They're playing Nate Hobbs outside, which is like a player that we talked about that we
hasn't he been slot like his entire career?
Ineffective there. So like kind of they asked him to go out and play full time outside basically because they really liked, and I get it, Javon Bullard on the inside. He's a good player, and I like the safety duo. Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams are good players.
Yeah,
but yeah, I just don't see it with the corners. I mean, Keyshawn Nixon, who's a nice little player, actually started out basically just as a return guy and a reserve player within the secondary, is their number 1 corner. Like, but so I don't know. Yeah, I think they're not suited, in my opinion, to handle a matchup like DK Metcalf. And I'm curious to see Calvin Austin getting back in the fold, what that means for him. I mean, we see this offense humming right now, and now you're adding that piece back into it. I'm not saying he's like some type of needle mover, but I do think he's a piece of the puzzle that, creates for other people, whether it is him just taking the top off to allow guys underneath to make plays or whatever. If he has to be a decoy, he could be a decoy, but he does a lot of things that little guys don't do in a little guy's body. I mean, he's not afraid to go over the middle of the field. We've seen how good he is in contested situations for a guy of his stature. Curious to see what it looks like getting him back in the fold, and also what that means on the trickle-down effect. Roman Wilson had, low bar, but his best game, I thought, against Cincinnati. Only 2 catches for 17 yards. A third one nullified by a penalty, or you're probably looking at like 3 for 30 or whatever it would have been. But the tape was good. I thought he was open quite a bit in this game. I thought he blocked really well in the moments when he was on the field for those assignments, doing a lot of clear out work. So I thought he had a good game last Thursday, and I get it. Calvin's definitely a better player still at this point, but it does kind of stink, at least for him on a personal level, to see his snaps probably go back in the wrong direction now with Calvin getting back in the fold.
Yeah, and for how much, not that this is like apples to apples, but how much tight end usage the Steelers have, you're already limiting how many receivers are going to be on the field anyway. You get a lot of those jumbo packages. So whenever you are adding back a player like Calvin Austin, who you know is going to be taking up those snaps, it's I don't want to say demoralizing, but I feel like Roman's probably got to know that he's probably not seeing the field nearly as much as he did a week ago.
Mm-hmm. No Scotty Miller on this one. He's the one player that is out. So Keyshawn Williams, I would have him just be the return man. You don't need to use Calvin Austin in that regard. You just let him be a receiver. I thought Keyshawn's added some juice to the return game for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what that looks like. So I don't know that he's getting any opportunity as a receiver. We just talked about it. Like, they don't play a ton anyway. Like, Ben Skoranek barely plays as a receiver, and I would think that he's probably higher on the pecking order than Keyshawn. So, but yeah, let's get to some predictions, I guess. Then we already see one that kind of relates that I was going to bring up about this Green Bay team when I get to my final score prediction. If Cleveland can beat Green Bay, so can the Steelers. Absolutely.
Hard to disagree with that logic. I mean, that game.
I have something I want to say about Green Bay,
by the way, and that was also, not to cut you off. That was the absolute stinker by the Packers closing out that game. But that was also that weird weekend where you had all the block kicks. That was one of them. Block kick to then get your own winning field goal for Cleveland. Super weird NFL weekend. That's why, you never know on a weekly basis how these games are going to go. We can predict it as much as we think we're going to go, but a lot of times Smitty and I look like an idiot in our predictions. So, but I agree with the point 100%. If Cleveland can beat Green Bay, so can the Steelers.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into some bold predictions. So I'll be honest, you can go back and on these and listen to our bold predictions. I'm not sure about you. I would have to go back and look. I feel like I'm kind of on a heater right now with bold predictions. I've either been on the money or very close to being on the money with them. So one of mine, I'm doing a heat check on my defensive one. However, on my offensive one, I found a bold prediction within something very unbold to do, because we're looking at the tight end room. We've talked about it a lot. If you're picking a tight end prop, it's probably low-hanging fruit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, mention Jonnu Smith, right? Averaging 5.9 yards per reception. Doesn't have like a single explosive play on the year. A guy that's been in his career very good after the catch. Jonnu Smith, 2 explosive plays in this one.
Now, can we define explosive play?
20-plus yards. 20-plus yards.
Okay.
That's what it's defined, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I'm going by the definition of like how they track explosive plays is 20-plus yards. So I'm going by that threshold.
Okay. Now, if he scores a 19-yard touchdown, does that count?
Yeah, it doesn't count. Nope. Doesn't, unfortunately.
Wow. I like
that. That would fall into the category of, like I said, I've been close on a lot. Like,
yeah.
When I said
I feel like we both have. Like last week,
Cleveland,
I said 3 passing touchdowns. I said the guys, but I was off by 1. I said that Jaylen Warren was going to have 1, but he didn't actually end up getting 1. But yeah, I think like we've been close.
My tight ends against Cleveland, I said 10 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. They had 100 yards and a touchdown, but they had 8 catches as a group. So yeah, I've been close a lot of weeks. I mean, last week Pat scored a touchdown, scored 2. So like, but you can go back and look, and I'm either very close or on the money with my offensive ones. I feel like so. Johnny Smith, 2 explosive plays.
I like it. It's a game that's set up for it. I am going to take the Aaron Rodgers angle of this one. I truly believe that you cannot believe anything Aaron Rodgers says when it comes to these games not meaning any more than any other game. I know it's going to. He does not want to lose to his former team. He's the only quarterback in the NFL this year that has 4+ games or 2 or more games of 4+ touchdowns. He adds to that total this week. He's having 4 passing touchdowns on the night.
Wow. I mean, I don't know what your prediction's going to be for the game, but if you told me in advance Aaron Rodgers is throwing 4 touchdowns, I think I feel pretty good about the outcome of it. Even though we've seen them be on the other side.
I think they eliminate Micah Parsons. I think they're able to utilize the middle of the field, and I think that they're going to find the end zone multiple times in this game. I don't.
Well, what I will say is, they are good when they get into the red zone. One of the best offenses in the league when they get into the red zone. And last week they obviously didn't have a problem getting into the red zone, but on the season, why it's the 11th scoring offense and not higher is they haven't had as many trips to the red zone as those teams that are higher. Right. So I think from an efficiency standpoint, the argument's there that this has been like a top 7 offense. They just need to find a way to get inside the 20 more often. The personnel is set up for them to be good. Like, I think that's sustainable, them being good in the red zone.
Yeah. Well, he's keeping that 40 touchdown pace on the season. He's going to continue his lead of 4+ games touchdowns this year.
Wait, okay, so if he throws 4 in this game, that would put him at 18 through
and that's
7 games.
Yeah. And then you multiply that by 17. That'd be pace for 43, 44 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I like it. I'll let you go first for defense.
Defense, like the Steelers, I think that the Packers are going to look over the middle of the field. But I think Calvin Austin III will score 2 touchdowns. Darnell Washington will get 2 also. I like it.
There's 4 right there.
That's my 4, baby. Here's the thing, though. Is a Calvin Austin one? Is one of those going to be a sweep? Might throw off my 4 passing touchdowns.
Give him the Johnny Smith in week 1. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. I think the Packers, similar to the Steelers, going to look to the middle of the field to attack it. Attack the middle of the zone that the Steelers are probably going to be playing in, especially based off what you saw a week ago. But I think that the Steelers are going to find a way to take advantage of that at one point in this game. And I think that Patrick Queen's going to get lost in coverage. I think Patrick Queen gets an interception in this one.
Oh, lost in coverage.
Lost in coverage meaning he's going to be hidden from Jordan Love. Jordan Love's not going to see him make a mistake, and he's going to take advantage of that. He's going to throw it over the middle of the field, and Patrick Queen's going to be there.
For as good as my offensive predictions have been, my defensive one last week was Patrick Queen would get an interception, and he played probably the worst game of his season. I mean, he's been very good this year. He was not good.
I did not mean to piggyback off of that, by the way, a week later. I completely forgot that was your prediction.
I mean, that is where they want to target. So, like, I get it. Especially if they're getting rid of the ball quick. Like, you're not taking that deep shot. You probably are going underneath. So, if they are able to, in some way, fool Jordan Love at some point, he could certainly be the beneficiary of that. Also, like, with getting rid of the ball quick, the one thing that you could be susceptible to, we didn't see it last Thursday, but typically the Steelers pretty good getting their hands on the ball at the line of scrimmage. Maybe it's tipped one up in the air that Patrick Queen is the closest guy to, and he's the beneficiary of. So I like the call. I said I have a heat check one in here. This is certainly a heat check. The defense or special teams is scoring a touchdown in this game. I do it at least once a season. This is the season that I decided, this is the point of the season I'm deciding to throw it out there. I'm not going to do this every single week and call it. This is the week that I'm going to call it, and it comes without, and unfortunately will be for the rest of the year, without Miles Killebrew as part of the equation.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to call it necessarily, but I want to get a little bit of input on this because they don't have Miles Killebrew. So do you think that if it's a special team score, if it were a special team score, is it more likely to come in a return game, or is it going to be a blocked kick or field goal? More likely to, I should say.
Yeah, I don't like the blocked punt because of no Killebrew. I'm trying to think like who the next guy would be that I would think would block one. Blocked field goal is very interesting. Like an Eccles or like one of the corners off the edge, potentially blocking it. I kind of like that. But because I mentioned at the top of this that I feel like Williams has added something to the return game, he's added some juice. I would think that direction. But honestly, I was thinking more defense than anything.
Well, hopefully PQ is they're able to just return the interception that I get.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And return it for a touchdown for you.
Yeah, I mean, Joel said it's JPJ and no penalties. JPJ pick 6 and no. But first off, I think it might be bold to say Joey Porter Jr. is catching a football. A lot of pass breakups, very little interception production, even going back through college. Like he's around the ball a ton. But okay, I don't know how many touchdowns we're scoring. Fryermuth will get 2 also. So 6.
Darnell Washington will get 2 also. Or is that the original prediction? So that's 6.
That was the original. Then we added Fryermuth 2. So, I guess, so he said thinking CA3 would score on a sweep also. So maybe 5 passing for Aaron. 1's a Calvin Austin rushing touchdown.
Hey, if we're scoring 6 touchdowns in this game, we're feeling good. And if we lose that game, then what the hell happened on defense?
If we score 42, I mean, that's 42 right there.
Right.
If we score 42 plus points and lose the football game, I want everybody fired that has anything to do with the defense. I want everybody released or traded. And I'm not leaving my seat until they make me. And I'm going to just stand on it and yell.
Instead of going down on the field after the game, seeing Pat.
Yeah,
nope,
I want nothing to do with
yelling.
That. If they let me onto the field after the game, it's not going to be good for anybody.
You just unzip the zipper and take a piss on the field. you just say, if anybody questions you, you're like, this is what the defense just did too.
Yeah. It's something else. I don't know if it was a 1. I think it's more so a 2 that they would have dropped to lose that game. But anyways, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. First Steelers tutty is an Aaron Rodgers rushing touchdown on a fake from the 3-yard line. Hey, we saw Joe Flacco get loose for, what was that, like a 13-yard run last Thursday night against the Steelers defense?
Yeah.
Aaron, on that rollout to throw the Hail Mary specifically, I mean, the legs aren't obviously where they used to be, but they're not like completely gone where he has to stand still.
No.
Either.
No, he's not standing. So he's not.
Actually, you called an Aaron Rodgers rushing touchdown a couple weeks ago.
I did several weeks ago. Yeah.
So
Didn't happen, unfortunate.
Logan's calling.
I like the idea. But yeah, he's definitely not Big Ben at the end of his career with the Steelers.
Oh,
the mobility is still a little bit there.
Yeah, although we haven't used a QB sneak yet. We've seen them try to do the push and get called for a false start, which doesn't happen the other side of PA, but we got called for it. But yeah, we'll see if they even ever use Aaron in those situations. All right, it's final score time. Going back to a point that we saw earlier that I said I wanted to bring up. If Cleveland can beat Green Bay, so can the Steelers. I don't know if I'd love or hate the fact that Green Bay really has not played a complete 60-minute game since week 1. They're 4-1-1. They're in first place. But they just, to me, have not looked the part in terms of what I felt like they were going to be yet this year. And it just scares me that it hasn't happened yet. And against this defense, could happen on Sunday night.
What an opportunity to do so.
Yeah. So, yes, they're 4-1-1, but haven't been super impressive if you watch these games. I mean, the Cardinals game came down to the wire. Cardinals led for a good portion of that. They lost to Cleveland. Like, when we complain about the Steelers and the fashion in which they win, I get it's because we're so locked on them. We maybe like aren't so in tune with what's going on around the rest of the league.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams win that way. I mean, their most lopsided win this year was against the Lions in week 1. Since then, the most points that they've won by in a game was 9 against Washington in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
Lose to the Browns 13-10. Tie the Cowboys. Win over the Bengals with Joe Flacco doing pretty much nothing in the first half. Found it a little bit in the second half. They win that game 27-18. And then the Cardinals, they were losing for a good portion of that game. They end up winning 27-23. So I don't think that this Packers team has been what I thought they were going to be, ... yet. But I still think they're a really good football team. And I don't know if I love or hate the fact they're coming to Pittsburgh without having played that complete 60-minute performance. So, with that being said, I think the path is there for either one of these teams to win this game.
All right, Derek, let's get to the score.
Nothing's going to surprise me in terms of a result. However, I'm taking the Packers to win this one. 27-23 on Sunday night. Little less scoring, I think, than you're going to see from a lot of people. That does go over the over that Vegas has set at 43.5, 44, somewhere around there, I think. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't be so upset with this result had we not just lost on that Thursday night game to Cincinnati. I think that one makes this one, I'm not going to say must win, but probably is must win as you can have.
Yeah, it changes the dynamic of it.
As much of a must win as you could have in this point of the calendar against an NFC team, because you left the door wide open for the division when you really could have put a clamp on it last Thursday night.
Yeah. I think that game changes the feel going forward, at least for the next
Colts coming to town next week. Then you go to LA for another Sunday night game. I mean, I'm not getting ahead of myself here. I'm just laying out what the rest of, what the schedule looks like in the coming weeks. It's hard to find one they're going to be favored in. I'm not saying that they're going to lose all these games.
Sure.
But they're not going to be favored until probably Cincinnati comes here in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying I think that that game losing on Thursday night to Cincinnati really changed how you're looking at the Steelers' schedule for the next several weeks, because obviously it was going to be tough no matter what, whether they won that Cincinnati game or not, but at least you feel a little bit better about your positioning in the division if you do so. So the fact that they have these tough opponents after dropping that one in Cincinnati, it's just a tougher pill to swallow. But I do like the Steelers' chances in this one, similar to you. I mean, and what we were teasing about, how you said how Derek on Steelers Afternoon Drive was saying that he could see the Steelers winning this one. Like I really could see either team winning this game. I think that they're going to approach the games very similarly as far as getting the ball out quick and attacking the middle of the field. Both teams are going to be set up to do similar things. And so I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think it's going to be an exciting game to be at for you specifically. Exciting game to watch on TV, though. But I think that the Steelers are going to win this game because it feels like a game that, not necessarily that they shouldn't, but coming off a game like they had in Cincinnati, like you were saying, it feels like a must-win game, even though it's not technically.
You can find them as 3.5-point underdogs in this one, which neutral site means they would be 6.5-point underdogs to this Packers team. I mean, that's significant, I think.
Yeah.
Like that kind of, it's not, I wouldn't use the word heavy favorite because it's 3.5 points, but like in your own house, 3.5 points is relatively significant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think based off of what my predictions were, I'm going to predict that it's going to be a cardiac game. You're going to have to get the heart monitor out, and the Steelers are going to be losing this game 30-28 late, and we're going to get a walk-off field goal for the win on Sunday.
Walk-off.
Yes, walk-off field goal. Steelers are going to win 31-30.
Not leaving any time for Jordan Love on the other side of it.
Nope.
That might be what has to happen. Yeah. All right. I like it. Either way, one of us is going to be right. And I think for the first time in Steelers Afternoon Drive history, Allen was on the right side picking the Steelers over DB and I picking the Packers. I think it's the first time he's ever been on an island picking the Steelers. It's happened the other way where DB and I pick the Steelers and he doesn't, but never in that way. So you and Allen versus me and DB.
I like it. Do you know what you guys are the ones that win? Was?
Oh, I don't. I'd have to go back and.
I was just curious, but yeah, 31-30 walk-off field goal. We always say that if the Steelers have the ball under 2 minutes to go within 3, the game's either going to be tied or whether they're going to win. Like,
you know what? His might have been like 34-30,
really?
Something around.
All right,
because I remember saying when he like painted the picture of the way that it was going to go down, like there's not going to be enough time left on the clock after the Steelers score or whatever. I was like, you just painted a great picture in my mind for the way that this is going to go down. Me in stadium.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And imagine the thrill of a potential walk-off field goal for you being in the stadium as well. Like that's a great feeling. But we always say all the time, like we can't imagine if we're predicting a game, you have to make a prediction that does not have the Steelers getting the ball and losing late if it's by 3 or less points, because all you have to do is get to the 50 and Chris Boswell sinking a field goal.
Joe just mentioned BTJ is on the trade. Is that Brian Thomas Jr.? There's no way, right? Oh, Diana Rossini said they're listening on calls, even if it feels unlikely. What in the world?
The Steelers won't give away the draft capital, but would Smitty give away the draft capital?
I mean, he's not. I don't think he's the Steelers type, to be honest. He kind of, and this isn't, I'm not trying to talk down on the player or anything like that. Those guys, at least to me, have not looked like they wanted anything to do with the middle of the field. That entire receiving group outside of Travis Hunter. Parker Washington's got some toughness to him. I really hate to question a guy's toughness. This dude just seems like he alligator arms a lot, doesn't want to go over the middle of the field. I don't know if it's just a mental thing with him or what's up. I like the player. I loved him last year. I have him in a fantasy.
Who are those guys? When you say those guys don't want anything to do with middle of the field, just like recent receivers, or
well, Brian Thomas Jr. And who's the guy that they brought in from Washington?
Oh, you're talking about Jags receivers. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the Jaguars receiving group.
I was for some reason when you said those guys,
Diami Brown.
Okay. For some reason when you said those guys, I was thinking of his wide receiver class, not the Jags receivers. And so I was like, who are we talking about?
No.
But no, that makes sense.
I mean, I'm curious as to what it would even take to get him. They would probably ask for at the very least a 2. I mean, you spent a first round pick on him just a year ago, and he was good in his rookie year. How have we gotten to this point? And the Jaguars are a team it's even put in here that they're shopping for players on defense. They're trying to buy, but they're also listening on the guy that was just their best receiver last year.
Right.
That just seems odd. There's got to be something going on. Maybe they feel the same way. Something's going on behind closed doors where they're concerned about his mental, I guess, desire to do the things they need him to do. I don't know. That's not a player that I'm buying right now.
No.
There's something going on there, clearly.
You're buying somebody who's old.
If the Jags are trying to trade him
and going to be cheap.
If the Jags are trying to trade him, obviously there's something more. That's kind of my feeling on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
You know who I think could make sense for him, though? I know that this isn't their show. What about the Commanders? Played with Jaden Daniels at LSU.
That's true.
Their wide receiver 1 last week was Luke McCaffrey, I think, because they haven't had Terry for.
He's been their wide receiver 1 a couple times since Terry's been hurt. He's been targeted the most.
Debo obviously didn't play last week. Noah Brown out.
Chris Moore. Chris Moore at one point was their widest. I think last week going into it, Chris Moore was probably technically listed as their wide receiver 1.
Woof.
Yeah, okay. Chris Moore, Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey. What the hell? I mean, as a fantasy owner, Terry McLaurin.
You know what else was
Terry McLaurin has been frustrating.
What else was thrown out there this morning that we missed that doesn't relate to the Steelers, but definitely worth bringing up is Rap Sheet said Lamar ran scout team at practice Friday.
Oh, really?
Which is an indication maybe he's not returning this week, and they're just being coy about it.
That could be true.
I mean, I don't think that they beat the Bears without him. The Bears are on a 4-game win streak. I trust the Bears without Lamar on the other side to win that game.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right.
I would too.
Good stuff. We appreciate you guys for being here. Joel, thanks for throwing that our way here as we wrap up, because I don't have the the tab open. I'm not always checking, so appreciate you throwing that our way and having some conversation about it. Still think the Steelers are going to end up adding a receiver. I just think that people are probably going to be disappointed by the name that it ultimately ends up being. But good stuff. Thanks for being here. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hit us everywhere at Around the 412 on all the socials. You can find Tyler, Wild_Teach33. Find me, Zachary Smith, PGH. And oh yeah, this also goes up on all the audio platforms. So Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, we're there. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. We'll be back for another one of these. We'll also be back next week, obviously, for the regular Round the 412 Steelers show. And if you're also a Penguins fan, that'll be dropping next week as well. Until next time, for Tyler, for Smitty, this has been another Steelers Saturday Sit Down, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.